Okay. All right. Hi, Matt. Thanks for joining me on the Founders Predicament podcast. I'm
Thanks
Ray
for having me
Sharp,
on, Ray.
and this is Matt Reed. Sorry, Matt Rad, right?
That's it. You got
Matt
it.
Rad. Yeah. And you're in Australia, right?
Absolutely. Beautiful, sunny Australia.
And what time is it there now?
It is 6:30 a.m.
Oh, okay. All right. It's not as bad as I thought. Okay. I thought it was like 4
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning or something. Okay. That's great. And which part of Australia are you in?
We're in Brisbane. So we call it God's country here because it's warm every day of the year.
Is that Queensland?
Yeah, Queensland. So nice and warm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My
That's
aunt
great.
used to live in Queensland. She moved down to Sydney. Or
Awesome.
south.
Yeah, well, it's a great place to live when you're an online entrepreneur because it's a really good lifestyle here.
Right. Okay. So is it sort of it's tropical, isn't it, Queensland?
It is. Yes. Yeah.
And so is it more like jungle where you live, or what's it like?
Very mountainous, very
Oh,
mountainous. So
okay.
we ride mountain bikes and stuff like that. But for us, as long as there's internet, then we can make money. So it doesn't matter. So long as so with these days, we've got the beauty of Starlink. So we're always connected and we can be making money online.
Is that good upload speed as well, Starlink?
It is, yeah, yeah, it works
Because
well.
generally with satellite, yeah, you download is fine, but upload is no good.
Yeah, no, the upload's good enough for videos and stuff like that. So
Oh wow.
yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
Okay. Until Elon turns you off, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's all down to him. All right. So tell me, I know you do a bunch of different things.
Yep.
Maybe so it sounds like you're a coach, you're
Yep.
an investor,
Yep.
and you're an angel investor as well. So
Yes.
do you work a lot with US companies?
We buy and sell US based online businesses. We've been doing that now for since the GFC. But our actual background is buying and selling businesses. So when I say us, that's my wife and myself. So we met at uni studying zoology, Ray. So totally different. And we made all our money in buying and selling businesses, which is weird, isn't it? So we quit zoology and we bought our first business. And from that was 30 years ago. And ever since then, we've been just buying and selling businesses. We got into M&A in Sydney, working with high net worth and private equity firms and things like that. But then when we had kids, we decided we wanted to be able to work from home and have, be able to raise the kids. So we just started doing what we used to do with offline businesses. We literally just took it to online businesses. So that was around 2008 and
So
we
what
never looked back.
yeah. So what criteria determine whether you think a business is worth buying or not?
It needs to have good profits. And for online businesses, we want to, there's two key things that we look at with online businesses. And that is you're looking at good profits and also traffic. We want real legitimate traffic, which is worth a lot of money these days, particularly in light of all the recent changes in the Google space, and also with AI and everything. So we live and breathe by traffic and profit.
Okay. So can you tell me about so and you work with startups. So do you ever work with startups? Well, you work as coaches as well. So can you
Well,
tell me?
more angel investors. So we come
Oh,
in as
right.
angel investors. So my
Yeah.
my wife Liz, she's like on the board. Like you see on Dragon's Den when they interview all the young
Yes.
entrepreneurs, and they decide
Yeah.
whether they're going to give them money. That's what Liz does, um, and it's great fun. And then we invest in there, but we more coach our own private clients on how we buy and sell websites because people find it so fascinating. You can own a portfolio of money making websites, work from home. So we help a lot of professionals, white collar workers or high income earners
Yeah.
transition out of their careers over to full time online income. So that's most of the work we do, kind of one on one with, I guess you'd call it startups, because they're coming in completely fresh and they typically go and buy a website and they learn how to renovate them. And that's
Right.
basically what we do.
Interesting. Okay. So tell me about so tell me about the angel. So the angel investing that you do, what
Yep.
criteria do you, well, so what spaces are you in? Are you just in one space or are you
No.
multiple spaces? And geographically,
Oh,
where are
good
you?
question. Okay, so for Liz and I, the way we do our angel investing is we only invest through an angel investing group called Brisbane Angels. They're really well known here in Australia. They're very successful. And there's lots of angel groups all around the world. So some of your listeners might have heard of it. So you said you're in New York, but the really big angel investing groups are in America, of course. It's where all the money
Yes,
is.
yes,
And the really, there's the ones in California, they're Silicon Valley Angels. There's big famous groups, but here in little old Australia, we've got Brisbane Angels, Sydney Angels, Melbourne Angels, and I like to think that Brisbane Angels are very well known. So, not that we're competitive with our southern states, but so basically, in answer to your question, we prefer to do it through a group because then there's a group due diligence that we can do. We don't invest individually as angel investors because it's just a higher level of risk. So with a group, these are all successful business people. We come together as a group and we're called angels because we're literally angels. We come in and help starters. We'll give them funding if we think it's a good business. And typically for Brisbane Angels, we only invest in, and this is how a lot of angel groups work, we only invest in entrepreneurs who are based in Brisbane because it means we can help them, because we also do mentoring with them and stuff like that. So they need to be local. Otherwise, you can't go and meet them for coffee or whatever. So that's the way business is run these days. It's still face-to-face.
interesting. So can I ask, what's your hit to miss ratio in terms of like, if say you invest in 10, how many do you expect to make it? And are you looking for unicorns or are you looking for something else?
We've hit a few unicorns. Well, not quite unicorns, but hit some big ones in Brisbane Angels. I don't know whether I'm allowed to say which ones are because the deals are going through now, but they're big. One of them's just been bought out by Microsoft for significant sums of money. In answer to your question, worldwide, the stats are angel investing, if you're listening to this, is for high net worths only. It is high risk. Really good question. I think it's the 80-20 rule. Be less than 20% are successful. So you need a portfolio approach. It's a mathematical game, really, at the end of the day.
Right.
Angel investing is not something that you do to make money. It's something that you do to give back to your community in general. And so the statistics worldwide, we talk about this in Angels all the time. We collate all the statistics from all the angel groups around the world, and it's pretty well known. It's around 10% to 20% are truly successful. You need a portfolio because you hit your big one win, and that tends to pay out all the other investments that you make. So, Ray, I want to make it clear, anyone listening to this, we're not doing angel investing to make money. That's our fun thing, and it's our way of giving back to our local community, our entrepreneur startup community. The way we make money and where we have a much higher hit rate is in the websites that we buy ourselves. We have the angel investing is a very small part of what we do. We run multiple companies and we run multiple websites. And so that's where we have a very high hit rate. And that's what we teach, because buying online businesses is just like buying bricks and mortar businesses. You got to do due diligence and fix them up and then, raise the cash flows. So that's just a straight out business proposition. It's very, very different to angel investing. Angel investing is a bit of a crapshoot. It's luck of the game.
So
and look at all the top VCs; they say the same. They'll try and tell you that they've got the system dialed in. We've got a system; it works, but it still comes down to numbers. When you're getting into that full-on startup space, that's not a like I said, it's a very different situation to what we do with buying and selling online businesses.
So, what do you do with so how long of a runway do you give people? So how many months do you give people? And then if you decide this is not working, then how do you disengage? And where do you leave the people that you don't, that don't get sold to Microsoft? What happens to them?
Well, that they can they just fail. Being blunt about it, most startups do fail. So we're getting what we've noticed over there. It's a really good question. We've been angel investors now for over a decade, and when we first started doing it, a lot of businesses, we just didn't get any money back. But in recent years, particularly since COVID, the hit rate's been a lot higher. The quality of the businesses are a lot better, or entrepreneurs are getting smarter because there's a lot more information now out there online about how to do startups. There's a lot more help. And so the good news is for startups now, I think it's a lot better. It's harder, it's getting a little bit harder to raise money for startups, but if they've got the grit, startups, we're seeing much better results in general. And so coming back to the first part of your question, which is how much of a runway do you give them? As a result, we need to give a lot longer runway. You don't hit returns in 1 to 2 years generally. You're normally looking at your money's locked up for 5 years. Some of the deals we're still in now after but generally, angel investing, they're looking for an exit within 4 to 5 years. That would be the general rule, 4 to 5 years. And normally they sell out to a bigger player. So if it's in biotech or something like that, then you don't develop the product. It's a patent. It's because it's covered with patents. The big guys come in and buy it and take it to the next level. So generally, you're trying to look at an exit within 4 to 5 years.
Is biotech one of your favorite areas or not?
No, not for me personally. My favorite area is tech because that's how I make my money with my other businesses. So it's always tech. I love tech, anything to do with tech, SaaS, online businesses, anything that's driven online or software. That's my personal interest in investing in.
And so when you pick a startup, what is the difference between you say grit, which Angela Duckworth made famous, if you will, through her book about grit. If we're talking about grit, if they're all gritty, then what's the difference between a successful one and a less successful one, or one that goes nowhere? What is it? Just the sector? Is it the sector, the timing? Is it the execution? Or is it simply the grit, or is it luck?
It's a bit of all of the above. But at the end of the day, all our mentors in angel investing, and they're very, very experienced, very successful people, business people, they always say at the end of the day, Matt, we're investing in the entrepreneur. That's what it comes down to. It's always the entrepreneur. We've seen everything. No matter what startup someone brings to us, we've seen it. I will have seen 5 other businesses that have got exactly the same idea or very similar. It always comes down to the entrepreneur. And something you just said, Ray, which is really interesting, is you mentioned in my personal opinion, on my coaching business, which is eBusiness Institute, where we're teaching people, it always comes down to execution. Do people get in there and execute? There's other things like, obviously there's luck, there's sometimes it's the sector. It's rarely the sector though. Because all the ideas are good. We've never seen a bad idea as such. At the end of the day, it comes down to the entrepreneur. So if you're listening to this and you're out there trying to raise funds or something for your startup, make sure you're an impressive individual and show them how much grit you have, that you're going to work your butt out. People want to see skin in the game. They want to see that you've had a big crack. They want to see some runs on the board. You've heard that idea too, fail fast and keep going or whatever. All of the above. At the end of the day, don't ever forget, angels, if it's angel investing, even VCs, they're investing in the person. They want to see someone that's going to go for it. And apparently, like in America, and I know you're based, and this podcast is aimed at American startups. It's even more important to show that you've got the hustle, that you're going to hustle. You're not just going to be, and that you can be coachable. So that for us, I think the number one success factor is the entrepreneur.
Okay, that makes sense. So, so going back to my earlier question, I was asking, because you are a coach, right? So
Yep.
when you say when people fail, they fail, but like, do you let them down gently? Do you give them like, do you just pull the rug out from under them? From a personal point of
No.
view, right? Because these are people, these are still
Yeah, that's
people,
right.
right? And they're people that
Yeah.
you believed in and that, you've been
Yep.
proven wrong in this case, right? Because it didn't
Yep.
work. So
Yep.
how do you let them go? How do you send them on their way so that they're not sort of personally destroyed and that they and then
Normally
will
it's
come.
them. Normally it's them that come to us and say, we're going bust. We're out of here. So we lose our money. It's our money that's on the line. So, we're the early stage investor. So we just lose our money. That's just the way it is. You just get a notice saying that business is no longer exists or it's pivoted. So it's not about us letting down. We don't personally let people go as such, because we want to see them succeed, and we do successful secondary raises and stuff like that all the time. Well, if we think and we vote as a group whether or not it's worth keeping, if we want to keep investing into the company. So it's not as simple. We're not in control of these entrepreneurs. We're just, we're just minor shareholders on those companies. So really the angel investors, we're mentors and stuff, but if the business is failing, it's not about us letting them down or anything like that. That's not what people should be focusing on. It's up to the entrepreneur to make this thing successful. At the end of the day, we're backing them. It's up to them to make it successful. If they fail, then they've got to move on to the next deal. We're the ones at the loss because we're losing heaps of money. They're losing money and time and everything like that. But it is business at the end of the day. So I personally have never been involved in letting anyone down. I've just been notified by the Angels Group, this business is out of business. What do you want to do with your shares? Do you just fold them? How do you want to deal with the tax losses or whatever?
I see.
That's
So
the
you,
cost of
you
doing
did mention
business.
pivot. So if they pivot, aren't you still an investor? I don't understand.
Yeah. So we might suggest that we always we do everything we possibly can for them to not fail. So there's that's the beauty, if you're listening to this, of getting angels on versus VCs. Now VCs are very, very good, but VCs are ruthless. They're out to make money. VCs come from a different space. Understandably, VCs need to make money, right? So they are a lot more hardline. They just cut it. As angel investors, we're there to help people. You'll find most angel groups will get in and try and help a business. If it's struggling, they'll do everything they possibly can, particularly advice-wise, and or raise more money to try and help the person turn around the business. And sometimes it's a suggestion like, well, maybe you try going this way and try something different. So that's the fantastic thing about angel investors. They're literally angels. They're there to help. They're not there to wind up companies, and it's not in their interest to do that. And like you said, you do get to know the entrepreneurs very well. And so my experience is, angels do whatever they can to prevent that happening.
Okay, so have you ever invested in the same entrepreneur twice? As in the first time it didn't work, so they come back?
I'm just trying to think. Have I? Good question. No. So like I said, for Liz and I, angel investing is not a major part of our investment portfolio. It's about 10%, and that's all it should be. If you're thinking of being an angel investor, you should never. The general rule is no more than 10% of your investable funds. So for us, we're not investing in heaps of deals or anything like that. There's other angel investors that do a lot more, because Liz and I aren't retired at this point. We're only semi-retired. Like we're not fully retired. Some of our friends in the angel groups are fully retired and they do this full time. So they'll invest in a lot more deals. So we've got a bunch of friends that invest in a lot of deals, and they've definitely reinvested with entrepreneurs more than once. But for Liz and I, no, not at this stage. We haven't.
Okay, so let me ask you about your other business. Well, you've got two other businesses, right?
Yep.
Or well, at least two other businesses. One is buying and I guess selling at some point, but buying online businesses,
Yep.
right? Making them work better. And the other one is the coaching, I think. Is that correct?
Yep.
So
yeah, we teach people how to buy and sell online businesses.
Okay, so tell me a bit about teaching people, and then what you do, or either way, tell me what you do and then how you teach people, or how you teach people and what you do.
Well, what happened was, it's kind of a story, because we made our money originally buying and selling, like I said, bricks and mortar businesses, particularly manufacturing wholesale businesses. We got really good at it. And then we realized, as young entrepreneurs, those sorts of businesses have one major flaw, and that is they suck up all your cash flow. All your money goes into physical inventory. So we were looking around for what's a better way of doing this, of buying and selling businesses, because we love acquisitions, business acquisitions. That was our thing. And this was 25 years ago. And so when the internet came along in the late 90s, Liz, my wife, started to look at it and go, you know what? We could buy these online businesses. We can make money online without having to do physical inventory. So we started buying up websites so most people, when they hear our story, they hear that we buy and sell online businesses. They presume we're buying e-commerce websites, but nothing could be further from the truth, because they're complex, because they involve physical inventory. And as young entrepreneurs, that just sucks up all your cash flow. And we had a mentor that said to us, if you want to get rich, go for cash flow. Cash flow is king, particularly in business. He was doing the same as us. We were learning off him how to buy and sell businesses. And so we realized, we could buy online businesses where we sell either advertising space, or we sell leads, or we sell information. We don't have to have any physical inventory whatsoever. We can work from home in front of a laptop and raise our kids, or we can work from anywhere in the world for that matter. And there's no barriers. We don't have to, because we used to export in our bricks and mortar businesses. And we realized with online businesses, we don't have to export. We've got instant access to America, which is the world's biggest and best market, by the way. So we've got instant access to America, even from here in Australia, 24/7. No borders, no barriers whatsoever. So for us, it was pretty much nirvana. As soon as we got into it, we started making money, and it just went like that. So we bought our first site, I think, in 2008. Liz built a site first, but that took too long. So she just said, what the hell are we doing? Why don't we just do what we've always done? And we just started buying up websites. And so it was so cool. No one else was doing it back then. And very unique thing to do. So leading to the second part of your question, we used to get asked to speak at conferences. And that's how eBusiness Institute came into being, because we used to get asked to speak at conferences, typically real estate conferences, because real estate investors are looking for cash flow. And what we do generates really high cash flows compared to real estate investing numbers. So they always used to invite us to speak here in Australia at these real estate investing conferences, and we're always the last speaker. And then people just kept asking, can you teach us what you do? And then that's how we did it. That's how we got into teaching what we do. So eBusiness Institute, that's what we do. We teach people how to buy and sell online businesses.
Okay, so tell me a little bit of the secret sauce, like what makes an asset worth buying, and how do you price it?
There's a lot to that, Ray. Takes us a long time. You can't teach that in even 30 minutes. There's 30 years of experience there. But it is two things. What I said at the beginning of this podcast, which is where we live and breathe by profit and traffic. That's one of the main thing. And the secret sauce is understanding how to do good due diligence. Like any asset that you're buying, even real estate, you need to know how to do due diligence. But once you're up the complexity level, like you can do standard residential real estate, or you can do commercial real estate. So obviously you need to do a bit more research with commercial real estate. And then if you start buying physical businesses, you need to do, in-depth due diligence. And it's the same with websites. You need to learn, there's a few tricks to it, but it does revolve mainly around the profit, the traffic, and the niche, the market research. We're constantly researching lots of different markets. So they're probably the main things. And there's a lot of assets unrealized. It's a really good question that you asked. What is the secret sauce to it? I mean, it can take a long time to teach someone that, but there are definitely unrealized assets in websites that people don't see. And that's what we love to teach people to discover, is what we call diamonds in the rough, the websites that are right in front of you that other people have overlooked, and you make a private approach to them and see if they want to sell. So these days, a big one, I'll give one bit of secret sauce, which is really, we've been teaching this for years, but it's even more valuable now, is if it's got an email list or a list or a following of some kind. That is worth a lot of money now in the right hands, because there's a lot of advantages to a website like that. So if you're listening to this and you have an online presence, whether you're doing a startup or whatever, just make sure you're building a list or a bit of a following. I think you'll see over the coming decade that's going to become more and more valuable as we go forward. So just little things like that. And there's other things too that are worth a lot of money in websites. We've got a whole list of them. Like the age of the website, is it legitimate traffic? Is it legitimate content on there? What's the niche that it's in? It's kind of like talking of real estate. It's a little bit like buying real estate in that, you're looking for the worst house in the best street type thing. And then we fix it up and either flip it or we increase the rents. Because basically we rent out these sites. We rent either site advertising space to sponsors, or get ads on there, or we do affiliate marketing on them, or sell leads. So we kind of looking for that rundown website that's been neglected. We come along and fix it up, and then we with a relatively simple makeover, not too complex, and then we double the, hopefully we double the rents on it, double the profits that we make.
So so advertising is a big part of the revenue stream for these.
Not always. It depends. That's just one method. There's a lot of different ways you can make money off websites, but it is still a favorite of ours because it's so automated.
What other advertising? Email list, you said. You mentioned affiliate marketing. What other
Yep.
what are those the main ones, or is there something?
No, there's more. There's selling leads. There's heaps of ways you can make money online. But selling leads, they're probably they're the best ones to start out if you're a beginner and you've never done it before.
Yeah.
They're the easiest ones because they are automated. But selling leads, so you can sell leads to local businesses or for local services, or a combination of all of the above. And you can sell leads for affiliates and get commissions. That's a really, really good one to do. And there's heaps of different businesses that you can do that with. But also selling information products is a big one as well. So ebooks or courses or memberships.
And that's what you're selling as well, right? Are you selling? Well, I'm assuming that you're selling the course.
Yep.
To do.
But we have other sites that do that as well. So we have courses on pigeon racing. It's $49 pigeon racing, and people buy it day in, day out. Because you can go really niche with these businesses. So that's one of the other things we look for is in some ways, it's, I guess you'd call it a micro niche. So we have clients that have, sites on, I'm just thinking of one now, Nathan Alexa, they bought this really cool site here in Australia, actually. It was about native gardens, Australian gardens. And the guy hadn't done anything on, they could see when they're on the website, he hadn't touched it in years. And so they realized this is an asset. There was a lot of content on there, but he obviously wasn't making any money because he just neglected it. So they bought that for $400 US, and now that makes around $4,000 a month. And that's just through affiliate offers and ads because they've got the traffic up so much.
Oh, that's quite a return on investment, isn't it?
Yeah, that's an exceptional one, but that's the sort of thing that's the sort of results that are out there if you know what you're looking at. Now they're very experienced. They've been coached by the best. They've been with us for many years. They've also got they're a younger couple. They live the laptop lifestyle thing. Like, they travel around the world. They live in different countries for 3 or 4 months at a time, and they own a portfolio of sites like that. So they've got, sites in the craft niche. They've got another gardening site. What else have they got? They've got a few sites in. So you pick niches that are like hobby niches because people are passionate and they want to learn stuff typically, or they want to learn new things. So you provide really good information and then you put ads there or sponsors. You get sponsors on there.
Interesting. So you're effectively marketing content. You're selling content in a way.
Yep.
And the content markets itself to a certain extent because because it would be SEO. It would be favorable for SEO if it's genuine
Yep.
content, not crap. Then
Absolutely.
so
Yep.
tell me a little bit about that, and that's the last thing I would like to talk about, is because you mentioned
Yep.
SEO and profiting from traffic. So can you tell me a little bit about that? Because
Yep.
it's something that I think every web developer like myself, we've been doing SEO for years. So
Yeah.
I'm sure I've missed a few things. So please tell me what I'm missing.
SEO, I guess, is the fundamental skill that we teach and that you use, but it's not the only thing that you use. There's lots of other abilities, but if you've got the ability to rank a website, or more importantly, in this day and age, as you know, Ray, SEO's changed quite a bit in the last 12 months. But at the same time, it hasn't. That fundamentals are exactly what Google was asking back in 2010. Matt Cutts used to talk about it all the time. Provide high quality content that's unique, helpful, and that's what they've got now is the official helpful update. And that is referenced by other people online. And so that's what the cool thing is, the fundamentals haven't changed. And what it turns out is those fundamentals work really well for any online business if you want to make money online. So it's a very, very powerful skill if you're listening to this, if you can SEO a website, because it's a key skill for any business in this day and age, I believe. But SEO now, it's not so much SEO because we need to obviously reduce our reliability on Google as much, because Google just keeps changing at the moment. And even Google themselves say that, like with AI and everything. So it's about traffic generation. That's the key. But it still comes back to a content-driven strategy. At the end of the day, if you want to make money online or drive leads to any business, whether you're a startup or whatever, it's all about content and content marketing to some degree when you look at it out there, what people are doing. So even the big names like Gary Vaynerchuk and all those guys, they're all saying the same thing. It is about getting your content out there, but in a smart, strategic way so that people discover it all around the internet. And then ideally, it's about feeding all those discovery points into a central hub, which is your money-making website, whatever's on there. So the concept is relatively simple, but it's what you said earlier, it's all in the execution. So if people execute on it, they will do well, and you've got to find different ways. And we've had some interesting changes in Google and SEO land, as you would well know, particularly in the last, I'd say even the last 6 months. It's been with a helpful content update. That's been pretty harsh on a lot of content sites. But the good news is it's flushed out all the, I'm going to say it, all the crap sites that are out there. And if you're good at it, there's a lot of opportunity now, because it's very clear what's working, and it's got to be high quality content. People try and game the system too much, myself included, over the years. We've made every mistake in the book. I'm not going to pretend to get everything perfect, but we can certainly see the way forward now with SEO. It's a whole topic for itself, Ray. We're running a 6-week course on that right now with our private clients, and it's going to go for 6 weeks. This is for advanced people, but but in a nutshell, it's about creating high quality content that's engaged and helpful. That's the key skill.
So you said
driving it to a central hub.
Right. So you mentioned that Google is constantly changing, and there's competitors like Perplexity and other things, and even Google is becoming more like Perplexity, that lists 3 or 4 great resources and then doesn't list anything else. And so you're kind of stuck if you're not in the top 3 or 4, or am I wrong?
No, you're wrong. Well, you're right and you're wrong. The good news is, if you're in a micro niche, you don't need to be in a top 3 or 4. That's the thing. People don't realize how big the internet is. So we've always made money with websites that are like, they can even be on page 3 and 5 of Google. So way, way down. They still get traffic somehow. It's about the traffic. It's not so much about the ranking as much. Now, that's all things being equal. Of course, you want to be number 1, 2, or 3 if you can, but that's very rare these days. Unlikely. that you are ever going to be number 1, 2, or 3 in
So
competitive niches,
what role does
unless you
social
buy your way in.
right, yeah. So what role does social play in driving traffic?
A big role now, because it's one of those we call it a discovery point that's out there as part of the content marketing, because people are it's SEO these days, I think, is omni-channel. It's not as clear cut. In the good old days, it was a lot easier in that you just worked on your website, but that's too limited now. And it's going to be in too much isolation. And it's actually not even what Google wants. We need to be omni-channel if you want to get serious about it. Now, the good news is it's exactly the same strategy. It's just a content strategy. You can hire outsourcers to help you with that. That's pretty easy.
So, I mean, we're really on LinkedIn, and that's pretty much it. So that's kind of mono channel, a little bit too much. So for a small business, I know that's a bit generic, but just for the argument's sake, for a small business, tech business, or let's just say tech business, what channels other than LinkedIn would you suggest? LinkedIn, obviously, you're looking for SEO. Where else would you go?
Your website is huge. You definitely need to have that dialed in and have a really good user experience on the website. You need to be working on the conversions. So the good news is for small businesses, SEO is still really easy, especially if it's local. If it's like if it's geographically located and it relies on that, that's dead easy to rank still. The individual website, I would just rank the website. So we do that every day of the week. That's really easy. That's just standard SEO, what I call. I mean, I make it sound easy because I've been doing it for 15 years, right? But it's just standard, on-page SEO with a bit of backlinking into it. And even so, for local, geographically based businesses, that's very straightforward, and that can be hugely successful. You'd use a digital agency for that. Any digital agency, say for instance yours, Ray, would be awesome at that. If you need to get the site to rank more, say across America, because you're a startup and you're still a small business, then yes, we need to be starting to look at more omni channels. So LinkedIn, I'm a big fan of. It works really, really well. It's good to have a good LinkedIn process, but it would depend on the business. What you got to do is look at the customer avatar, who's coming to the website, and where else do they hang out? If it's a younger crowd, they're probably on TikTok, or maybe if it's more a visual type business, they're probably on Pinterest. So we've got lots of clients who've done really well on Pinterest with that. Different channels will work really well for different markets, but I would focus on one at a time, like what you're doing, like say with LinkedIn, and then I'd just gently add in some other channels and see how they go and see if they work as well, because sometimes you can't tell which channels are going to really work well. We still really like Facebook and Facebook groups. And then also my personal all-time favorite, people call it a social media channel, but it's actually just another search engine now, and that's YouTube. YouTube is massive. Now I know there's a next level of, content creation to get onto YouTube. I understand that. But as your business grows, you should definitely be considering YouTube. I would say the 3 biggies for most small businesses like what you're talking about would be, number 1, their own website, get that SEO'd and on-page SEO'd really well, get that dialed in and make sure the conversions are working really well, user experience is really good, and do a content strategy on there. But then you take the same content and post it onto LinkedIn and ideally onto YouTube. You just do interviews or something like that. And then what you do is you constantly link back to your main website and try and build a list. That's a business in a box right there.
That's
Devil's
brilliant.
in the detail, of course. You got to learn how to do it. But seriously,
No.
that's the simple. That's why I love online business. It's so simple. The business model itself is quite simple. That's literally it.
Yeah. Let me ask you. So I'm not going to ask you about exit strategy because I don't think it really applies to you, or does it?
Yep.
It's
Well,
not really.
we're experts in selling businesses. I've been selling businesses for 30 years. So I help a lot of people sell businesses from small up into 20 mil.
Right. So, but I mean, you yourself are not going to exit eBusiness Institute, right? No. So
not at all.
that's in that sense. I mean, it doesn't apply. So
No. That's
so
I
what's
get where
your
you're going. Yeah.
so in the past 15, 20 years, what's like the biggest thing that you missed? Like, everybody misses stuff. I spoke to a guy
Yeah.
a couple of months ago, Mark, and he worked with Jeff Bezos, and
Oh, wow.
they,
Yeah.
they let him go. They let Bezos
Yeah.
go. They let him take the book business, and he moved to Seattle from Long Island or somewhere like that. And they said, yeah, that's not very valuable. Off you go. And
Yeah.
so that was a classic miss. Have you had any classic misses, or things that you really wish had gone another way in the time that you've been in business that you'd care to?
Yes, multiple times. Because we buy and sell so many businesses, there's been quite a number that I've regretted. There's been a few that I've regretted selling, but also, interestingly, that's a really good question. In recent years, like in the last, say, 10 years or 15 years, I regret not going more into the finance niche in online, because the leads are worth so much. Like, they were up around $300 per click or per lead. And you can make serious sums of money. We had a friend of ours online who we used to work with. He's kind of a competitor as well, but he kept saying to us, you're good at SEO, you should go into the finance leads. And because it was finance, which is there's a bit of regulation, we had to be careful here in Australia and in America, but also it was really competitive even back then. But yeah, that's probably one of my main regrets, not going hard, not actually going into that niche. And someone that I saw do it, the two people that I watched do it, they're in 9-figure businesses now.
So is it too late for you to do that now?
Yeah, it's very competitive. I would need a whole team behind me. I'm too old. I've got a good life, Ray. I've got a good setup. I don't need the grief. So that's or I'd need to get investors and buy a website, a big site that's already in that niche. That's the only way you can do it. You got to buy your way into niches like that now. That's the good news. If I seriously want to do it, I just go and buy a finance site. So that's I've seen them come up for sale, and often I look at them and go, I'll say to Liz, we should buy that, but it's just at this stage of my life I don't need to. But that's my main regret with online businesses. I should have gone hard in the finance niche many years ago. I should have backed myself on it. But we still did all right, Ray. We had a lot of fun with the other sites that we had, but it would have been fun to go into the finance niche in the heyday.
All right. Well, that's interesting. So I think, is there anything else any more wisdom you'd like to drop on the listeners about how to do business, or how to improve existing businesses, or anything like that?
I'd say out of all this, if you've listened this far, I'm presuming you're probably interested in how you buy and sell, online businesses. Well, I hope you are. My main bit of advice there is just, if you are going to seriously go out and have a crack at, just start out small. Just take it steady. Don't rush out and buy a $50,000 website or a $100,000 website or whatever. You can buy small websites under $5,000. Just start out small and learn the ropes, because there is a lot to learn. And obviously, if you want to learn, come and check out ebusinessinstitute.com.au. But seriously, start out small, stay safe. Just be smart about it. It's not like the good news is it's not like buying bricks and mortar businesses, where to get a decent bricks and mortar business, you've got to spend 6 figures. Whereas with these things, you can start out small, do it as a side hustle in the evenings. And that would be my number one bit of advice. Just learn the ropes, make sure you enjoy doing it. This is a lot of fun.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Speaking of fun, this has been a lot of fun speaking with you, Matt. Matt Read from eBusiness Institute. Thank you so much for joining me on the Founders Predicament podcast. And I wish you lots of luck in the future. Doesn't sound like you need it, but I'll wish it to you anyway. And awesome. Let's hope we can continue to learn from you at some point in the future.
Awesome, Ray.
Check in a year or so, and let me know what wonders you've done in Brisbane.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to be back on.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.